Welcome to the Heal Yourself podcast, where we dive deep into all things healing. I'm Denise, a speech language pathologist and a self-love coach for adults and teens.
And I'm Kira, a traditional naturopath and functional nutritionist, and we are here to guide you through the transformative process of healing your body, mind, and soul.
From the latest in functional medicine to nurturing your relationship with yourself, healing trauma, and even transforming your money story, we're here to empower you with the knowledge and tools to create lasting change.
So whether you're looking to heal physically, emotionally, or spiritually, join us as we explore the many paths to wholeness and wellness. Welcome back, everyone. Today, Denise and I are talking about an interesting topic, and that's the inherited patterns of busyness, or just being busy. And I have a feeling so many listeners are going to relate to this. It's definitely something Denise and I have been working on.
Yes. That's a long journey.
It's been, and that's the thing, like, it took us a while to even recognize that it was a pattern, right? Like, I just grew up staying busy. I watched people be busy, and so I thought I had to be busy. And that's why we want to tie in the fact that it's inherited. Like, sure, you can be a busybody and you can create that on your own due to so many other variables, but a lot of times it's inherited, and I think it's fascinating.
Yep. It's stemming from something. So
it is, and that's the thing.
Let's
like it
dive
can,
in.
Yeah, it can stem from so many things, but I think a lot of it's inherited, at least based on our conversation, because I mean, we're absorbing our parents' relationship with time, right? So like, I'll give an example. Watching my mom growing up, she was always doing something. Like, it wasn't like the TV went on in the morning and they watched the news or they sat and read the paper. It was like my mom would cook breakfast, and when she was working, she'd go off to work and she'd come home and she'd cook dinner, and we would never just sit and enjoy the meal. Like, we would eat, but then she would get up. I always felt like she'd get up partly, like part of the way through the meal and start washing dishes or doing other things.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it was
yeah,
like
yeah.
just always busy. Like, I literally just witnessed her, especially, but both of my parents always being busy. What about you?
And then you just tie in this to, I must be always busy to be productive, right? And you tie it into success and you tie it into worth sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So same. I grew up both of them, even though my mom did not work, she's a stay-at-home mom, but it was constantly busy doing this, having so many things to do. And like you said, it's funny how it's just like, yeah, so we're not even done with dinner and or whatever we're eating, the meal, and then immediately we're going to start. And I see it today, even sometimes in gatherings, like the gathering is not even done yet.
Yeah.
And putting things away. It's just the constant like doing something. And then of course, yeah, my dad like working 6 days a week. So it's just constant. And you see, but and again, those are your role models, right? Those are when you're growing up, these are the people you're looking up to. And not just that your parents, like you're seeing your family members or maybe sometimes teachers, right? Like, oh, I have so much to do.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah. It can be passed down like a family trait. It can be people that you watch growing up. It can be other family members, like you said, teachers, like people that were around are modeling that busyness, and they're creating that environment where we feel like it's normal and it just becomes a part of our daily thing. Um,
and
I
then
think,
also when that busy, like when you're not busy or like when people are not busy and they're labeled lazy,
uh-huh,
right? Or like
yeah,
your people, like your family or whoever you're growing up with, labeling the other people, you're like, oh, wait a minute. So my family is like always busy, this and this one is not, and they're lazy, and this we
mhm,
start like starting judging and labeling. And that's how you start building things in your mind, I
yeah,
believe, that they will
yeah.
manifest and express as adults.
And I 100% agree. And here's the thing. What does lazy even mean? I actually don't believe that people are lazy. Um, and I know we might get some pushback on that, but if we look at lazy, it's like, do people really not want to do something? Usually there's something else that's going on. You know what
Correct.
I mean? But I think we've just slapped a label of lazy on these things. And it's like, okay, if I have to always be busy, what does that mean? But if I pause from something and I go sit down, is that really lazy or is that me taking the time for myself? But we don't view it that way. For whatever reason, we've created these stories.
Exactly. Exactly. And these are the stories. And sometimes to be honest with you, and I don't know if you felt it too, when we're expressing it right now as adults, the busyness, sometimes you're like you feel you're so busy, but it's like, what am I busy with?
Yeah, I know.
So,
We've
like, what
had
am I
this
busy with?
conversation this week just because it was a crazy busy week for both of us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
I know.
well,
Anyway.
and I think we need to look at that as a problem, right? Like we're talking about busyness and it's not bad to be busy, right? We all lead busy lives, but when you get to the point where you don't know how to slow down or you are viewing slowing down as lazy or you can't create a to-do list without feeling like, well, I have to do everything on that list every day, like I can't roll it over,
Right.
that's a problem because
That
now
is.
yeah, and we want to talk about creating physical symptoms. I mean, we're impacting cortisol levels and blood sugar levels and leading to gut issues. So there's a ripple effect.
Absolutely. And like I know I stated it a little bit earlier, but again, some families, like there's a lot of culture involved, cultural and family values. Some families, some cultures do equate busyness with worth and with success, right? So that's why a tip for you is for you to have a definition of success. Remember what is real and what is true, and remember your values, right? So every season in your life, your values and your priorities are different. So how you define success is based on those. Because success to you, Kira, may look differently than someone listening in another country, right? So it's really important that we define our success based on our values. So in order to kind of like stop tying in that busyness with the worth and the success, because you're worthy just because you exist. I'm worthy just because I exist. And then we always are slapping labels on ourselves and judging ourselves. So,
And I
I
want to
mean,
speak to that too. Like, I know we're talking about culture and family values, but I'm also going to throw this out there in case we've got entrepreneurs listening or anyone that works, that could be relatable too. But for me personally, I always feel like, okay, I've got to do an email. I've got to post on social media. I have to do all of these things in my business. And if I miss a day, I actually beat myself up. And there's that
yeah,
busyness of like, does that make my business more valuable when I really go make a post on Instagram? Like, is that going to ruin my whole business if I miss a day? But for
no.
some reason, there's those
Wait,
stories again.
and again, it's the stories that are, that are
Hmm.
stemming from so many things that we are discussing. But the most important thing is to make the small changes, small changes. Even if you are just changing some of the stories, or instead of beating yourself up saying, it is what it is. I didn't get it done. It doesn't matter. And I know I can speak from Middle Eastern culture because I grew up and I saw Middle Eastern cultures, they are very busy all the time. And when you're not busy, that means you're not productive, you're not successful, you're not blah, 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 right? Or you're lazy. And again, also, it's not just the Middle Eastern culture, because in my work, I do work with a lot of kiddos in the Hispanic culture. And sometimes we're sitting in IEP meetings, and all I hear from the parents is lazy, lazy, lazy. Oh, he's lazy. He doesn't want to
Mm,
do this. He's lazy. So we start from their little associating, lazy when you don't do something,
yeah.
productive when you're doing something, successful when you're doing something. And to be honest, sometimes the doing that we're doing is fluff and just empty.
And that's what I was saying about the lazy too, is like we talk about root cause medicine. Look at the root cause of where this supposed laziness is coming from. When these kids aren't
Yeah.
working, because for those that don't know, I used to teach middle school English, like Denise and I definitely been in the school world. But like you look at these kids that aren't doing anything, and I didn't necessarily view them as lazy. It was like, do they not understand the content? Are they not enjoying the content? Am I not hitting their learning style? Like there's so many variables that go into that. It's not that the kids just were lazy. There was a reason why they weren't doing it. And it's the same thing with anything else. That's why I don't think laziness is a thing.
Mm-mm.
I don't think
Yeah.
anybody just is like, I just want to be a bump on log for the rest of my life and do nothing. I don't believe
Well, I
that.
hope not.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I don't believe it.
But no, but even if someone is believing that, what is driving that? What are those
Mhm.
stories? Because just like we've been saying, I feel like we're kind of like a broken record, but it's for a reason.
Yeah.
It's the stories. It's the stories that we keep continuing building and building and building. And sometimes, and a lot of the times, those stories are not true. So you change the story, you change your habits and the
Yeah.
choices that you make. So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
survival patterns. That's another thing. Again, we're going to go back
Mm,
to immigrant families, right? Immigrant families, sometimes they come in, they have two, three, four jobs, right?
yeah, that's
And it's
true.
just busy, 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 busy. Because sometimes we may feel under, we're like, oh my goodness, like we're not, we need to fit in this environment or in this culture. And then you pass it down, work ethics. Oh my goodness,
Mhm.
yesterday I saw my friend posted a meme or like not a meme. You know how those little short Instagram videos where like the guy is like, he's like, my parents gave me work ethics. Why didn't they give me generational wealth? So it's the same thing, work ethics, work ethic, work ethic. Oh, your dad worked five jobs. You know what I mean? So that's really common in immigrant families to, you're coming to a different country to make a different living for yourself or a different situation. So, but you get stuck in working, 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 and then you're passing it down to your kids, working, working, working. So
Yeah.
I feel that's really a big,
It is. And
yeah.
I think it goes back to that worthiness too of like, why
Mhm.
do we equate worth with doing so much?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it's a lot of cultures. It equates. I mean,
Yes.
not just, I mean, here, if we're going to talk about this culture, and when I worked, and that was a long time ago, I don't know if they do it now, but speech therapists also can work in the medical field. So I worked in a nursing home, and you had to have the productivity, right? And if you were not 80% productive, like there was something wrong, you got talked to by the supervisor, right? So what do? You're constantly running, 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 doing things. Oh, I have to see this one, I have to do this, blah, blah, blah. So it's just,
Yeah. It's a
I think it's
balance.
just fed, like we are fed all that.
We are. And it's a balance too. Like we're not saying, hey, just skirt out on your job and don't do anything and don't show up for your kids. But
Yeah.
like so many women, especially in men too, but we see it a lot in women. I don't, it must be like the mothering. You know what I mean? Like we feel still generationally and inherited and all that stuff of like, we're the caretakers. We're the ones that
Hmm.
cook. We're the ones that clean, even if we don't fit into that mold, right?
Correct.
I think that that's also an inherited thing. And so a lot of us are working women now. Like, I don't stay at home. You don't stay at home like we work.
No.
And
Yeah. No,
so,
absolutely.
yeah. And so we can continue that busyness cycle of like, okay, I work, but now I got to do this and I got to do this. You don't have to do all those things. Like, show up and do your best for your job and for your kids. But like, if the laundry doesn't get done, it's going to be okay. Like, don't stay up until 1 in the morning just because you want,
Aha.
like that. There's a
Exactly,
balance.
because your sleep is more important. Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a balance. Exactly. And then I forgot to touch base a little bit on the scarcity mindset.
Mm,
Oh my goodness. Also, the fear of missing out. So you keep constantly,
yep.
constantly keeping yourself busy. So for this one, because we all love tips. Just kind of like the previous one, definitely have a definition for success. And your definition for success, again, can be completely different. It could be like your version of success could be maybe to like, I don't know, not be angry anymore, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's just that it's different, or it could be related to money or not.
Mhm.
But the second tip that we want to also give you is listen to your heart. So whenever it's like you're feeling so overwhelmed and busy and you keep adding to your plate and adding to your plate so you can prove even more worthiness to I don't even know who anymore at this point, just stop and listen to your heart. What does
Yeah.
your heart want? And I know it sounds maybe a little woo-woo, but it's not because you
Mm.
gotta slow down to really know what is that busyness hiding.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
hiding something.
It
It's
is.
hiding, masking, it's masking something. And we'll go down with when we ask you to ask yourself some questions, but right?
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the first steps in breaking the cycle, right? Like the goal
Yep.
is to break the cycle, stop just being busy all the time. And you have to have that awareness and you have to pause. Like if you don't even realize you're doing it, you're not going to make any changes. So first, look at your life and it's like, can you slow down? Is it safe for you to slow down? Or do you just keep going, going, going all the time because that is you? And if you're someone like that, like Denise and I noticing, like, oh my gosh, I always create more for myself to do. Like
Yes.
I'm manifesting busyness because that's what I know.
Like,
Then,
don't you notice sometimes, like, you finish your to-do list, you're like, instead of celebrating it,
yep,
you add more to it?
yep, yep.
I'm like,
Always.
dude, celebrate it.
I know, I know. And that's the thing. Even like I didn't have that awareness until my husband said something to me. It was probably a couple years ago. And he's like, why can't you just like sit down? I'm
Sit
like, because there's
down.
always shit to do. But I
Yeah.
realized in that moment, like I just create more to do.
Yes. And truly, 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 when you kind of like hone down and you look at things, things sometimes always work out. Not
Mhm.
sometimes, they always work out. So, like, I don't know, think of an example where, you were like so worried and scarcity mindset. Oh my God, I have to get all these, boom, 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 this. And then you realize, wait a minute,
Yeah.
they instead I'm gonna say they flew down. They worked out. You know what I'm saying? So like every Friday, example, I'm gonna give you an example. Every Friday I do have a private client at 4 o'clock. However, a lot of the times my daughter has some things to do. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to do this before I see my private client. But a lot of the times my private client has some things on Friday. So he ends up canceling and they work out. The dad's always like, I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
we have this. And I said, don't worry, it's Friday and that's fine. But it's always working out to my advantage as well.
Yeah.
So think of examples like this in your life where you're like, you were so busy and you're like, I don't know what to do. But then eventually, when you slow down for a second and you said, it's okay, things worked out.
Yeah. They do. So
So
I
that
would
was a little
say
bit of a pin. Yeah.
I
Interjected.
right. No, you're fine. I'm used to it. I think if we break it down into steps, the first thing is you have to be aware that this is a habit and it's a pattern, whether you're creating it or, whatever it might be, but look at your busyness. Am I always doing stuff? Is it hard for me to slow down? Do I think I'm lazy? Whatever those stories are, but create the awareness. If that's you, then like Denise said, start listening to your heart, start looking at why you might be doing that, right? And then start making the changes, whatever that looks like of, okay, I do have a to-do list, but if these things don't get done, it's okay. Or I'm listening to myself. And I think I shared this on another podcast episode when I hit my overwhelm the other night. I was like, I have to go take a walk. Like, this is what I
Mm-hmm.
need. I could power through and just crash at the end of the night, or I could pause and listen to my heart and listen to what my body said and it told me to take a walk and I did that. So start listening because your body is always talking to you. And then I'm also going to say this is something that you really need to dig into. Denise and I are also big on this because when you heal yourself, you're healing the next generation. If you
Absolutely.
continue with this busyness and burn yourself to the ground, what are you doing? You're teaching your children. So now it's inherited still. We're just passing it down. So teach them better relationships with time and productivity and all the things that go into that. Teach them that it's not lazy, that they should listen to their bodies, that they should slow down. They should still do their best in all things,
Mm-hmm.
but they
Mm-hmm.
don't have to create more crap to do. It doesn't make them any more worthy.
And teach them that rest is okay.
Yeah.
And teach them to listen to your heart, to listen to their heart, and no matter what, continue with their passion. I do that with the kids, because my son is 18 and he's starting to work, going to college, etc. But his passion is jujitsu and working out and stuff like that. And I always tell him like, because sometimes like, oh, I'm not gonna go to jujitsu. I have this, I have that. But I always tell him like, don't ever give up your passion for the things that you have to do, like work or your paper or turning an essay. So continuously remind your kids to keep their passion and to always listen to
Mhm.
their heart and do what lights up their hearts.
Yeah, which is so important.
Yeah.
I
So
You've got questions. I know
I
you've got
do.
questions to help people get to the root cause. I want to hear these questions.
Okay. And remember, because every time like we ask you to journal questions, like don't be like me and journal all of them at once. It's okay to sometimes like,
Pick one.
because I'm very like, I have to get them all done. See? I'm working on
Yep,
that.
yep. Pick
But
one.
pick
Pick one.
one and then really, because what we're asking you to do is we're asking you to be aware and recognize a pattern and then
Hmm.
changing it. And that's not easy. Okay. That's
Yeah.
that requires time and effort. So the very first question that we can ask ourselves too, Kira, is, and I did journal on those. How do I make myself unnecessarily busy?
I have so many answers for that. I'm not going to share, obviously, but I love
No,
this
no, no, no.
question.
But I know it's like
Yeah.
I kind of reflect on that,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And I got those again. Those are not original for me. I have to give credit, and I don't remember the name of the person. But I was listening to a lecture all about busyness. That was like maybe in the summer, and he was saying, to journal those questions. So, and then two, what do I lose when I'm permanently busy? And this was a big eye opener.
Hmm.
What do I lose? Because when you look at your list, you're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
you know? And then what is the cost of that to me? So what am I losing and what is the cost of that to me? It could be your health, right? Because if you're busy all the time, you're
Hmm.
running around, you may not be eating healthy. What is that costing?
Yeah.
And what is my busyness defending me against?
Yeah.
That's pretty deep, to dive deep.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then, right?
Yeah.
And what is in my busyness? What an excuse for? Sorry, what is my busyness an excuse for?
Mm.
So when you dig deep in that, you're like, wait a minute, so I'm keeping myself busy so I can get away from this.
Yeah.
Example for me, instead of drawing boundaries, and because I didn't want to say no to people, I kept myself busy. When they asked me something, I'm like, oh, I can't, I'm busy, I have this, and this. Right. But now
Yeah.
I'm like, I can say, no, I can't do it without
Hmm.
feeling guilty or without explanation. But before I would be like, it was an excuse for everything. I kept myself busy. So I didn't have to do this and this and that. And the final question is, what good things would happen if I was less busy?
I love those.
So journal on those, reflect, please take one at a time and tackle that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, we said this, I think, in the first episode. If not, I'm saying it now, but healing can be very painful, right? You have to get out of your comfort zone for healing to happen. And we don't just talk about the physical. It's not like changing your diet, but this is an aspect of healing. When you can recognize patterns like this, you can make changes for the better. It's going to impact your physical health. It's going to impact your kids. And so, yeah, pick one of these. Like, even if you just sit and think through and journal on, why do I make myself unnecessarily busy? Oh my gosh, I feel like so many light bulb moments would go off for people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I I know, Kira, that yes, making changes and doing is not painful, but it's not easy. I get it.
Hmm.
But is it worth it? You know what I mean?
100%.
We are
Yep.
worth it. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So and not just us, it's because of the next generation.
Yeah.
Do we really want to continue with those patterns or we want to say, you know what, it stops with me?
Yeah.
So
100%.
that's why we do the work. And again, no one is perfect. You and I, Kira, have been doing this for a long time, and we still like really. I mean, I wish y'all can hear or what's up, just but you're
Behind me.
not.
Yeah.
Very confidential. But we also did with this, and we talk through it, and we recognize it. Like yesterday, I kind of like threw a little mini tantrum for something, and then later on, I realized I went back. I was like, why did I throw a tantrum about this? And I knew that. So it's kind, but in the past, I would let that tantrum control
Hmm.
me, but
Yep.
I stopped and I was like, and I took accountability and I was like, it wasn't even necessary,
Yeah.
right? But and that's the work. The work is not, oh, I'm so enlightened right now. Oh, I'm
I'm
perfect
healed.
because I meditated. I meditated 500 hours. That's it. No, it's the
It's
daily
ongoing.
life. It's ongoing.
Hmm.
It's the daily life because life it's life. It's happening. It's going to continuously throw us curveballs, experiences, shit, whatever.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
ongoing.
getting off my what is it? Soap opera
Soapbox.
box.
Yeah, soapbox.
Soapbox.
Yeah, I mean, we're curious. We would love comments on this. Like we
Yes.
haven't asked for that a lot, but guys, we have an Instagram page, pretty straightforward, Heal Yourself Podcast. Come find us,
Yes.
come follow us, but leave us comments in there. We're slacking a little bit, but we're busy and we're not trying to create more busyness. Just throwing that out there.
I know.
But message us or leave a comment on one of our posts and, let us know, is busyness something that you're dealing with? And then anything else you guys want to share about the podcast, and subscribe to it, leave us some reviews. We love that. We've hit over 300 downloads already. So
Yes, we're so excited. We're
we're
so
so
excited.
excited and so thankful. I mean, the goal is
Yes.
to keep serving you guys and bringing tips because we have so much healing that needs to happen.
Yeah. And we love recording the episodes because we also learn, from ourselves too,
Yeah,
again. And sometimes we listen to them and we take our own advice, but we're very thankful. And then, yeah, just like Kira said, give us not just feedback, tell us or maybe if
Mhm.
there's a topic you want us to dive deeper in, or an episode that you listen to and you're like, wait a minute, I could use a little bit more tips, let
Yep.
us know. We're all about tips.
Yep. Awesome. We will see you guys on the next episode.